What's up, guys? I got a little update on the Cummins swap project. So I got the truck in here. We got the original bed off of it. I'm gonna end up building a flatbed for it. Started kind of gutting the interior, got the headliner and all the trim panels and stuff out of it. Dottie approves of her new truck very clearly. But yeah, the interior is going to be a total gut. I'm going to get, new carpet, and I got to turn it gray. Got to get rid of this blue. The outside of the truck's probably going to be like white or black or gray or something, so it needs a gray interior. Door panels are in rough shape anyway, and the dash pad's in rough shape. So yeah, it's just going to be a total overhaul on the inside of it. But so I got the Cummins over here all cleaned up, ready to go in. I was gonna use these cheap brackets. They're only like $50, and they enable you to just use the original GM mounts, basically, right in their factory location. You just have to build a new cross member. So basically the two like frame perches kind of stay on the frame, and the rubber mounts stay on the frame in their original location, but you got to build a new cross member between the two, I guess. So I kind of changed my mind right at the last second. Like, the clamshell mounts are kind of small. I wasn't really worried about, I guess tearing them apart. It was just more like vibration dampening. Like, the 12 valve is kind of a rattly tractor engine. So I ended up going to, I found a picture of these on the internet somewhere when I was just kind of looking at different motor mounts, and these are a passenger side 6.7 liter mount, like I don't know, 08 up somewhere around there, 2010 ish. The driver side mount in that application, like, it looks just like these. It just protrudes way farther away from the block. It's really long. So I just got two of the passenger side ones because they're tucked really close to the block, and the frame width on these is really narrow. So and it's a big, beefy, burly, diesel mount. It's not these silly little, barely adequate clamshells. So yeah, I don't know. I guess I'm just gonna sell those. But so get the motors all kind of spiffed up. It's got the second gen. It's a first gen motor. 88 to actually 91 to 93. This is an intercooled 12 valve, but VE pump. It was before they went to the P pump or whatever in 94. But I wanted to run the overdrive and lockup converter transmission, which is second generation. So I'm using a 47 RH, which is 94 and 95, the first 2 years of the second gen. Because it's a hydraulic, mostly hydraulically controlled tranny. It's a really easy tranny to control, and it's got converter lockup. The first generation transmissions, the 46 RH or the A518, like, they just had overdrive, didn't have converter lock. So the converter lock makes a huge difference, and it drops your RPMs obviously a ton, but it also keeps the transmission from building heat when it's locked up. So in order to go to the second gen stuff, you need this adapter plate. It's a little bit thicker than the first gen one, and then you need the second gen starter too. I was told you needed a second gen flex plate, so I got this new flex plate. It's actually an SFI plate. It's a little thicker than the factory one, but it sitting it up alongside the first gen one, they're exactly the same. So I don't know why a bunch of people told me I needed a second gen one because I don't see any difference, but the Dodge alternators, these are a Denso alternator. They do not have a voltage regulator from the factory. They're regulated at the vehicle's computer, the ECM. So you have to buy a little voltage regulator kit. It's made by, I think, Transpo is the company. It's a little, you know, like, I don't know, $20 little voltage regulator kit. You got to take this rear cover off and just connect this regulator into a couple terminals in there, and then you bring these two leads out. The green one here is supposed to go to this top small little terminal, and I believe the orange you bring keyed hot to that terminal with the orange wire, and that turns the alternator on. And now it's kind of a, you know, self-regulating alternator. So if you want to run the Dodge alternator, you got to do all that. And I wanted to keep the accessory drive all factory, you know, so I can go to a parts store and say, give me a belt or tensioner or whatever for a, you know, 93 Dodge like this came out of. So she's all spiffed up, ready to go in. So instead of using those clamshell mounts, going to these, I have two sets of these. The Postal Service pretty much, I guess they lost the first set, so then the second set had to get sent by the eBay vendor, and they shipped FedEx and showed up here in like 3 days, and then like another, I don't know, week later, like almost a month later, those other two showed up from the Postal Service. So yeah, good job. Nice job on that. Typical Postal Service, you know, doing what they normally do. But anyways, so I built a custom cross member to work with these mounts. It's pretty simple, actually. It really wasn't all that difficult to make. All I did was get the motor hanging in here right exactly where I need it. You can see I staggered it off over to the driver's side here. So I just hung the motor in here and got it right where I wanted it, and then basically came in here with cardboard and made these little templates out of cardboard, and then stuck them up in place, and then basically fed permanent marker through the other side, you know, and then marked the hole, and then kept doing that with each plate. And then excuse me, plasma cut the plates out, and then kind of fished them all in here, bolted them to the mounts, and then, you know, kind of double triple checked to make sure the motor was right where I wanted it, and then I just went around real quick and tacked them all and pulled the motor out. So it worked out really well. So a lot of the time, if you're familiar with people Cummins swapping square bodies, which I've been on this Facebook group. There's a you know, square body Cummins swap Facebook group. I've been on that group for, I don't know, 7, 8, 9 years. So I've seen a lot of people swap this motor into this truck. And with a lot of the setups, especially when using the clamshell, the original mounts, which a lot of guys do because it's cheap, this front support, you have to, you got to cut like the whole center of this out. You got to cut this big like half moon into this thing for the balancer to clear, and then the AC compressor, you know, is real way down low there. It interferes with this frame rail. You know, you see guys where they have this whole lip cut out all the way up to the support, and then they beef it up out. They add another rib or something out here to give it some strength again. But being I was building my own setup, I was able to stagger the motor off and kind of position it just right where everything clears. The AC compressor is super close, but it does clear. But I took this thing, in order to not have to cut it all up, I just moved it forward. So you can't, there was another hole right here, I welded up or whatever, but this thing moved forward 1.25 inches from its original location. And then I just re-drilled all the holes. It was a pain in the ass. The frame rails were going all haywire on me. But, and that was all it took. Moving it that little bit forward and down, everything clears now. The balancer clears, AC pump clears, the power steering pump gets kind of close right over here, and by this bracket, that's kind of why that one's notched down, but still clears. And then it's probably a good, I don't know, 1/4 inch off the firewall, super close to the firewall. But I was trying to get it as far back as physically possible so I can still run the mechanical fan. It's going to be towing, hauling heavy loads. I really don't want to deal with electric fans. So I'm hoping the mechanical fan I can get to squeeze in here, in front of the core support. I still got to get the core support in here. Like basically once I get the engine sitting in here, I'm going to get the core support in here and then start cutting it up and modifying it for the Dodge, the original Dodge radiator and intercooler out of the first gen, the truck I got the motor from. I kept all of that. So, what else? Oh, I don't. If you got, I'm sure some of you are familiar with square bodies. The frames can break. The steering gear is trying to twist the frame over here, and it will crack and break around the mounts. So you can buy a steering box brace that works off of these two holes, or these two bolts, and then it comes all the way down to the center in here, and you drill out this little hole, and then there's a big bolt that comes through there and holds the other side of that brace. So it kind of triangulates it and eliminates the flex in the frame. Being I moved this one forward, there's no sense in me buying the off-the-shelf brace, so I'm just going to make my own. Do the same thing. I have some kind of a brace that comes off of those two bolts and comes down here and ties to the this front support. It's stupid to not do it right now. I'm in here welding and cutting, so what else? I gotta fix this firewall rust before the motor goes in. So I'm gonna take the whole firewall and fix all the rust, and then cover it in some kind of industrial epoxy. And then on top of that, I want to do sound deadening, like adhesive sound deadening, Dynamat or Killmat or whatever, something along those lines. Like these engines are really loud. Engine noise, I guess I should say. I mean, the tailpipe noise, they can be loud, yeah, with a straight pipe, but they have a lot of engine noise. I mean, it's a tractor engine, and it sounds like a tractor engine, so I want to try and knock a lot of the engine noise down in the engine compartment here. So we're going to put the hood insulator, and they have inside fender insulators that the 6.2 diesel trucks came with. So hopefully we can try and keep as much of the noise in the engine compartment as possible. So one more thing over here. This is the transfer case. This is a first generation Dodge NP 205. It's got kind of a goofy adapter housing on the front of it versus like a GM 205 here. And there's a female collar. This is male input, and then obviously the trans is male output. So there's a female sleeve that goes in between the two. It's a little strange, but and then this is the 47RH. So this is the second generation transmission. It's just a overdrive converter lockup version of the old 3-speed 727 Mopar tranny. So the first 3 gears are just controlled by this throttle valve. So you hook a little cable up to your throttle linkage up on the side of the engine, and then this simple little plug, 3-wire plug, you put power to that center wire, and then you ground I think it's this one here. You ground this one to shift into overdrive, and then you ground this one to lock the converter up. So it's a pretty cool transmission in that regard. It's really simple to control, but you still have converter lockup. So they normally have 1/2 inch hard lines for transmission lines, so I just went right to -10, and I'm just going to run probably braided hose. Obviously I'd love to take a bunch of time and hard pipe everything, but I need to get this project done as quick as physically possible. So for now I'm probably just going to sling braided lines through it. There is one thing that you can do right out of the gate. I'm just going to hook these two to switches, and I'm just going to run them manually, just for simplicity's sake. But there is a thing you can do. It's pretty slick, which is test port. That one right there. That is the governor test port. So that will read close to 1 psi per mile per hour. So basically, you're going 50 mile an hour, it should read 50 psi. They have like a centrifugal governor in them with like weights. So what you can do, you can tie into that port, and you can tee it to 2 adjustable pressure switches, Hobbs switches, I think they're called. And you can essentially, and then tie those switches back into these 2 grounds, and basically hydraulically actuate overdrive and converter lockup. You want it to shift into overdrive at 45 mile an hour. Well, you adjust your switch to 45 psi essentially. Some people say it's more like 1.5 psi to mile per hour. So that's probably going to be something I'm going to do. I can imagine the flipping switches constantly is probably going to wear on you after a while. It would be nice to just have it, shift automatically, especially if the wife's driving it or something. But yeah, this thing's all ready to go. It's ready to rock. I put this real deep sump pan on it. I guess I wasn't really after getting all that much more capacity, but it's just a slick pan just because it already has a drain, and it's already got a port for a temperature sender. So it just kind of, took a couple of steps out of the equation that I was going to have to think about doing. So, and it also, gives you another 3-4 quarts of capacity. So whatever, what the hell. So I think, yeah, it's ready to go. Just needs fluid in it. Same with the transfer case. So should be real shortly. The motor, once like I said, get the firewall repaired and a few other things, kind of paint the frame up in the engine compartment here, then I can get the engine sitting in it permanently. And yeah, there's not much to rigging a Cummins after it's sitting in there. So getting it sitting in there is the hard part, where it's not really like an LS swap. An LS swap, the easy part is getting it in there. The hard part after is the wiring harness and everything else, dealing with all that nightmare. The fuel system, this is ridiculous simple with the fuel system. It's got a mechanical lift pump on the engine, so all I got to do is connect the tanks to the motor, and the motor does all the work, And then in terms of electrical, like there's a 12-volt solenoid on the side of the injector pump that is key on, key off. That's pretty much it, and a starter solenoid wire. So it should be up and running real quick after it's sitting in there. So yeah, I'll keep you guys in the loop. Thanks for watching.